Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at Earth and Sky. Those of you joining us online, we always appreciate you. We really appreciate those likes and loves and subscribes to our channel, Earth and Sky Center on YouTube. And today I wanted to talk about a topic that was suggested to us by one of our audience members here, and it was very interesting. He had suggested that we talk about how everybody wants to change the world, but no one wants to help their own mother do the dishes. Which is so true. And it was really interesting because the very next day I was in my Kabbalah class, and my mentor in Kabbalah had said to me, everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to help their spouse with the laundry or doing the vacuuming. And it's so true. And then 2 days after that, the message came to me again when I was reading something. So I thought, this is definitely something that needs to be talked about now. And it's fascinating because so many people want to have these big things. Let's end hunger. Let's end poverty. Let's do something. I don't even know what it is, but I want to fix the world. And yet, the only way we get to that point truly is from the small acts that we do, the choices we make in our everyday life with the people that are around us, that are in our world, that are a part of who we are. It's those changes and that come together as we all consciously choose what we're doing that make ripple effects changing the world. The only way to do it is to do it now with every single thing that you do. And sometimes that is as simple as offering to do the dishes, whether it's for your mother or your spouse, or perhaps there's a friend who isn't doing very well or is very overwhelmed with a lot of kids. Offering those small acts, what a game changer that can be. And sometimes we don't even know how big the effects of that can be. It's those small acts that act as a catalyst for big change. Lighten the load for your loved ones, whether that is washing the windows or doing the vacuuming or listening. We all have been given 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we sometimes forget that we should maybe be listening twice as much as we actually speak. And just giving that time to someone, even your children, maybe especially your children or your significant other, sitting down and letting them know you have time that you just want to be present with them. That can be a gift that can help them to feel your presence, or another friend, or perhaps it's someone that is a stranger in public that just starts dumping a whole bunch of information on you, and you might be in a hurry, but you choose to be present fully for that person, and you don't know how much of a big difference that can make for that one person. That can be such a gift, simply being present for people. Do you ever get annoyed when you're driving and you find that nobody wants to let you into traffic and it feels like you're having to cut people off because nobody lets you in? Well, how often are you letting other people in? When you see someone else's blinker come on, are you the person that backs off and says, oh, they need to get into my lane, and give that pause so that they too can get where they're going, just like you are trying to get where you're going? Those small acts that we often don't even think about are important decisions that we make, and it's important to be conscious about those choices. I think a lot of times people might be driving and not even aware subconsciously that they start to speed up because it looks like maybe the person next to you wants to get over, and that's not going to happen. So instead, becoming conscious about what your thoughts are and making the kind choices instead. Thinking about how you can surprise your loved ones, whether it's vacuuming or doing the dishes or the laundry, and not even looking for recognition from it can be a really good thing. And those things that are small acts sometimes will spiral out into huge things, and you might not be around to see when those big changes happen. So for example, let's say someone is looking frantic as you both arrive at a parking spot at the same time, and let's say there's a lot of cars in this parking lot and you were driving around a couple of loops to find a spot because you really wanted a close spot. And keep in mind, sometimes if you park farther back, that's good exercise to get get those extra few steps in. But sometimes that front spot just feels so good and you just really want it. So let's say you and someone else get to that spot at the same time, and you look at the other driver, your competitor for this spot, and you see that they look a little bit frantic at the time, and you soften within yourself and you realize they too are in a hurry. They too would really like this spot, and you don't know what's going on in their life. So you back off and you signal, and they get to go into that parking spot. And what you didn't know was that that person was going for a job interview, and they were pushing their time frame. They were trying to look as good as they could for that job interview, and they were really stressed about being late. But that kind gesture that you did, giving them that spot, made them feel a spark of hope of, oh, maybe this is meant to be. Oftentimes we feel that if something really good happens, maybe that's a sign of something else, so that gives them a boost of confidence, and that also helps them to make it inside for the job interview on time. That person gets the job, and through that, they're able to provide better for their family. It actually ends up elevating a lot within their family, and the child that they had that was relatively young at that point gets a better life than what they would have had without that specific job, because that was within their destiny. And that child then ends up going on to so many larger things, and one day becomes president. And you didn't know that giving up that parking spot was one of the first steps, because everything is connected, one thing to another. That was one of the first steps that helped that young child that you never even met to become president. Or another example could be somebody that is at the grocery store. When you're shopping for groceries and you've got a cart full and someone else in front of you has a cart full, and you're feeling like, how long is this going to take? And you see somebody walk up behind you and they just have 3 things or maybe 5 things, and they're just trying to get through the line as well. And you let them know, go ahead. You let them know that you'll be fine, and they just have a couple things, and you let them in front of you. You didn't realize that even as this was the end of your day and you were exhausted after working and trying to get your food together to take home, you didn't realize that was the start of their day, because the person that you let in front of you was a hospital worker, and they were really tired but revving up to start their day working at the hospital. And that kindness that you offered, that kind act of letting them in front of you in the grocery store line, brightened up their attitude. It made them feel hope of realizing that there are good people in the world today. I think sometimes we get mired into seeing the bad that happens in society, but it's when we personally choose to do those small acts of kindness, it restores our faith in humanity with other people as well. It's if you're not the one that is always doing these small little acts of kindness, then who are we to complain that nobody does those and that we lose our faith in humanity? It starts with each of us. And the more you do those kind acts, the more you'll see that around the world, around you. And so let's say that person that works at the hospital begins to have a better day then, because you let them in front of you, and and then they end up brightening up the office because they go in with a better mood, and that helps their coworkers to have a better mood. You've probably noticed that sometimes when maybe it's at work or wherever you are, that you're talking with other people that you're associated with, sometimes it can take just one person that is a complainer that really can down the whole mood of the place. And you just feel like, this is going to dredge on. How long do we have to deal with this? Why do I have to work with this person that's always here? But you've also noticed at other times that there's that one person that will brighten up the whole room. They have the big smile and they're always welcoming you. And when you see that smile and you hear them yelling across the room, oh, hi, great job, or whatever it is that is a positive thing, it really livens up the atmosphere. It brings joy. It sparks hope. It sparks joy. It makes you feel good because you're around them. Well, you have that opportunity within yourself every day to be that person who sparks joy in other people, to be that person who lifts and elevates the room of everyone around you. And it can be you that makes that. Those small little acts are the things that then change the world. the mood that you end up setting within the day and within the room, the group of people that you're around, that can impact the mood of others when they're going home to their families or when they're getting ready. Maybe somebody had a funeral that day and they're really feeling stressed or sad, and that bit that you did to brighten them up helps them to elevate, helps them to get through the grieving process, or just the day-to-day anxiety and stress and depression that oftentimes so many people deal with. Having that spark of joy, that radiant smile, that can help change the world for a moment at first, and in the big scheme for the long term. It is always in beginning with those small little steps. You can be that person that begins to change the world through those small, simple acts that we're able to do. Some of the other small and simple things that maybe you've thought of or maybe you haven't thought of is if you see cats that are outside around your house, instead of just ignoring it or not trying to like turn a blind eye or just noticing the cat that's really skinny that happens to be there, you can be the person that gets into a spay-neuter program and fixes the cat and then helps change the entire world for that whole community of cats that's just around your house, but changes in a drastic way for everyone. Or you might have a friend with an illness or who is just exhausted because they have a lot of children or they have a lot of things with work or whatever it is. And often offer just to help with maybe getting the groceries or doing the dishes or asking what you could do to help that person, and laugh with them as you do it, as you help that person. And this will change their world, which then helps change the world in general. It's these small acts. Buying shoes for a child whose family is struggling, taking the time to call a friend and just let them know that you care, that you're thinking of them. Helping without looking for recognition is a really key point to igniting the light of miracles to come in. When I was younger, when I was a teenager, I had a neighbor that lived just across the street, basically, from where I was, and she had 2 teenage boys, and I happened to know that their back door was unlocked during the day, and oftentimes when I knew everyone was out, I would go over and do the dishes, or I would vacuum, and I never let anybody know that it was me doing it. And after several months of that, I ended up getting caught one time by one of the sons, and he said that he had been claiming to his mother that, because nobody else was claiming that they did it, so he was quite happy to say that he was doing it, and which was completely fine. It was for the mother that I was doing those small acts, and it really was able to brighten her day. Probably caused her to believe a lot more in her son. The son that claimed it was the one that would get in trouble a lot, so it probably helped that dynamic in certain ways, and none of that was up to me at all. All of that is up to the universe. All we can do is to be the conduit for doing those good deeds and then letting it go for whatever happens after that. Helping others is good, and without seeking recognition is really where the miraculous occurs. These miracles can move like the wind, because they become from tiny acts to changing the world as it sweeps around. So I hope you have some food for thought this week, and think about where you can create those miracles within your own life, within the people that you care about, and maybe create some tiny acts that will change the world. Even Mother Teresa of Calcutta and Gandhi, all of them started with small acts that they did within themselves. Gandhi would do things just with suppressing his own desire to eat, suppressing his eating in order to be a voice for change and things that needed to change. And he grabbed the hearts of so many, and that change began to sweep through. But it's small acts when we make it personal, when we choose on the scale of the day-to-day with the people that we know that are in our life every day, that we really begin to see that sweeping change. So have a great week, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed today's video, and we will see you next week. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Thank you.